Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Mental Health Awareness right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I am your host, Sarah Troy. My guest today is Gina Cavalier, and she, along with Dr. Amelia Kelley, are co-authors of a new book, Surviving Suicide Ideation, From Therapy to Spirituality and the Lived Experience. Gina is a healed suicide idealist survivor and the host of the Liberated Healer podcast. And Amelia, who is not with us today, though I'm sure we'll be referring to her, is a PhD, PhD trauma-informed therapist and a co-host of the Sensitive Doctors podcast. So surviving suicide ideation, we're going to dive deeper into that and what that really does mean. There's a lot of people committing suicide today because they've just given up, or they have despair, or we're dealing a great deal with anxiety, stress, the foods that we eat, the environment that we're in, it's all around us. So in this interview, we're going to be talking about finding purpose, daily practices, and how to find support at crucial aspects of mental health and wellness, myths surrounding suicide, self-injury, trauma, addiction, and depression often hinder the effect of understanding and support. Addressing these issues, like traumatized children, soldier suicide, poverty, can provide more comprehensive view of these challenges, understanding the phases of suicidal ideation and recognizing the 5 signs that domestic partner or significant other may be suffering from suicide ideation are crucial into offering timely help. It's also essential to know how and at what age to have healthy discussions with your children about suicide, including how to recognize it in teenagers and young adults. Steps for healing, including alternative modalities, can offer varied paths of recovery, exploring spirituality and mindfulness, along with practicing forgiveness of self and others, are powerful tools in the healing process. Finally, understanding the science and the power of hope can provide solid foundation for recovery and resilience. And the book is Surviving Suicide Ideation. Everything that you have written here that I've just spoken about is absolutely spot on. I would say that we're probably in an era of great confusion. And I think in that confusion, we have more ways to communicate, more ways to discover, more ways to learn than ever in the history of time. Yet we seem to be flapping in the wind without a connection, lost within ourselves and lost within society itself. Welcome to the show, Gina. This is a very good topic that we need to talk about.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so grateful to be with you here and everyone who's listening and actually holding space for me and you and the rest of the people that need to hear any kind of hopeful words of encouragement for themselves or someone they love, or maybe someone who's already passed. Honor space for all of those that have already passed on is something that I've been really holding on to as well.
No shame, no blame, because we're driven. I've been to that point, that brink. When you get into a depression per se, there is no snap out of it. There is no rationality. There is no logics to it. It is a feeling of such despair. And you don't want to die. You just want to stop the pain. And I think if you interviewed people that have crossed over that way, they would say, I didn't want to die. I just couldn't take the pain anymore. And it's not a pain that you can articulate. How was it for you when you had that crossroads that you had to face?
Yeah, absolutely. It's it is very debilitating experience, and very you feel very hopeless. We outline the stages in the book, 1 through 5, getting all the way to where you're making an action plan. And I absolutely believe 100% what you said. It's people do not want to pass over. They
Mm.
don't, when you stub your toe, it hurts.
Yes.
Oh, I wish that didn't happen. So of course you don't want to feel something grandiose and
Mm.
way that's going to be extremely painful and scary. Our instinct is to be alive, is to thrive.
Mm.
Just like any living thing, like an oak tree has the seed of an oak tree is driven to survive. Get the water, get in the sunlight, drive, 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 drive. We are the same, actually. So absolutely, when and where did we make that switch
Mm-hmm.
where as we became more modern, we've become more depressed, more medicated, more disconnected, and more lost. And
Yes.
that's what this is all about. And I like to bring levity to the subject,
Mm-hmm.
because with intellectual conversations in support, it's like, okay, I'm going through that, they're going through that. You can absolutely feel like you're not quietly pushed in a corner. And so having these conversations is vital so other people can feel like they can step forward. But the one thing that I 100% believe in is when you're going through that type of emotion, there's something in you that is changing. We're all changing all the time, right? And in that change, we have an identity that we're attached to, whether it's being a victim, being
Yeah.
a wife, being a having a certain job or a certain title. And we have this identity, and that identity and that ego is so strong and it really drives us. And there's
Yes.
a positive to it. But what happens is, for example, if you have unhealed wounds,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them are from childhood. I mean, a lot of them really are, or maybe like you said, the military PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
But we have these old wounds, and then say you're going through a divorce and you are a wife, and now you're no longer a wife, and
Yeah.
that was your identity, and you're moving on to another identity, but you don't want to shed this old identity. And in that shedding, you want to, there's that pain. So it's basically you want to shed that old identity in a way that's not as painful, but you don't know how. And
Exactly.
and that's when you can really fall into the pits of things aren't going to change. And the problem is that the younger people are not being able to identify that these changes are happening to them and that they're going to get over them.
Mm.
So because the fastest age range that's growing in suicide right now is 10 to 14.
Wow.
So they don't have the skills to sit.
Mm.
Their girlfriend broke up with them, they're being bullied at
Yeah.
school. They're like, oh, my life is over, I don't need to be here anymore. And so these are really important conversations to have so we can witness what's happening and come together as a community. And that's something that needs to change immediately. Absolutely.
I'm going to do a little pitch here because this is very apropos to what we're talking about. But I put a book together this year called Our Forgotten Children, and it's an anthology of 15 people who have contributed about the system that is broken in the raising of our children. And then, as you said, everything can go back to childhood. If how we even handle things in ourselves today, we can trace back to childhood. And it's not blame on our families. They did what they were taught to do or what society dictated for them to do. What we're looking at is the entire systems that are wrong. And, with young ones, and that was my chapter, kind of looking at our youth, how have we failed our youth? Where to get any sense of feeling of life, they'll gang together and go and stab someone to death to try and get a thrill. Now, we cannot look at the kids and say bad kids. They weren't born that way. Along the line, the system has failed them and hasn't taught them the values of life. And I don't mean, the values as we normally know it, although they definitely do count, but the value of living, of life itself. And they don't know what to live for. Everything is about how many likes, how popular I am. Purpose, what are you talking about a purpose? I just want to know that this TikTok has gone viral. And
Yeah.
everything is this exterior thing that they have no connection with the interior, the heart, the soul, the spirit. And this is where we have failed them in that connection.
It's interesting because I'm also doing a documentary right now about this topic, and we're trying to raise the funds and sell it. And it's all about like, where did we go wrong? But my preliminary research, what I found is areas where there's extreme trauma, say in Gaza or in Africa, or in areas where there's a lot of conflict going on, there is a reduced amount of suicide, and it's because they're surviving.
Yes.
They're in a survival mode. So they're fighting. And when we were more of a tribe, we were in that survival mode, but we also had family and community. We all had roles. We all felt
Yes.
a sense of self, and we've gotten so far away from that.
Yeah.
And we need to come back to it. We have so many people are lonely in this world, especially in the modern world. I mean, it's all the things that are making us completely depressed and feel lonely and more disconnected are all associated with when big money came into play. If you go back and look at the history of it, there was a mental shift when Andrew Jackson made 20,000 Indians go to the Trail of Tears and leave and get kicked out of where their home was, and they lost, they 1/4 of their people died. But that Andrew Jackson signed that. So, but instead of embracing the people that were already here, and wow, can we learn from the rituals and learn how to work together and things like that? So we created this separateness and then this aloofness, and now we have to maintain that. And that's when big money came in. And when big money came in, they have all the money to create credit scores to tell us. And this is to me, it's like they've created a system where we have to constantly be in fear and ashamed of ourselves.
Yes.
Taxes,
Failure. I'm a failure, right?
And when you're born into this, like I started thinking about credit scores, and I was like, where did that come from? And when did that come in? There's no story associated. I got cancer. I lost a child. I mean, there's no story associated. Like that's just your number. And so that to me tells me that our society now is being programmed, for shame and fear, and without understanding who we are as individuals and seeing the character of the human we are. And you know what I mean? And so we need to kind of get rid of, in a way, it only takes 3% of the population to create a revolution. So I just really believe that if we start to pull away and telling the people that we don't believe in what you're doing, I think we can make a big change. It's important.
This is a whole premises of why I do what I do. I bring the awareness and the solutions, but I say it's listen, learn, and apply. Because if you don't apply it, then nothing is going to change. We're all looking for change, but we've got to realize we have to be a part of that change. We are the change we seek. We are the peace we seek. We are the love we seek. We are the tranquility we seek. It's not pointing a finger to government and saying, you do it. They follow our example. We have to lay the path. They're about greed and power. Even if they go into it with good intent, the sewage is so contaminated that they're going to be fighting for their survival in the politics and end up doing things they didn't wish to do. So we've got to realize there is a system that is being driven by money and power, and it's not empowerment.
There's really good people that have a lot of money.
Yes.
And
they give it away and they generate hope for others, right? Those people.
And I play to them about like, hey, like people like me who want to create these programs to help people, you've got the money, and when you pass on, you want to,
be seeding opportunities for others behind you.
We can even get rid of the good government people, let them fight it all out or whatever, and we can create, like beautiful programs and that work together. And so, that's what I'm reaching for, is I'm, reaching for the people with money that don't have a specific political agenda, that just want to,
invest in societies, invest in humanity, invest in planet. Because do not hand it to government organizations to disperse, right? Seed those opportunities for the people that are on the ground wanting to do the work, that have a collective community behind them. These are the people that are going to create the change. Seed the path for them.
Yeah, and almost like skipping over them because there's a couple things. The energy of government, there's an energy associated with it, right? And then the other thing is that almost like, when you've worked at a big corporation, I say I'll use like Disney, for example. I worked there. It was like anytime I wanted to do anything, I had to fill out 14 forms. You know what I mean? It's like, I want to go on vacation. You got to fill this form and that form. You have this spots. You have to ask this, just to give an example. And that's
Reminds you
what
of
the
the movie
problem.
Brazil. You
Yeah,
need
and
an
that's what the
acquisition for
problem
an
is.
acquisition.
That's what the problem is of big corporations. It almost
Yes,
with government, the same thing. So nothing, it gets clogged. There's no way to get through. There's too much paperwork. There's too many personal opinions in it now. There's too much agendas, and you can't get any. You can't. It's really hard to push anything through in the government anymore.
I
And there's
know.
no wonder everything is so confusing. I mean,
And there's no
trying.
accountability either,
Yeah.
right?
So
Just as they'll take so long to push something through, they'll also take so long to respond to something that they know is wrong. They'll take even longer on that. As
oh yeah.
I've had a few people who have had to face fighting for their own business, fighting for their own patent, their own this and that against government, to not only be blacklisted, but also have to leave their own country because the government was out to get them. And, as one gentleman wrote a book on it, and he can't sell his book in Canada, he can only sell it in the States and elsewhere in the world. He said they're all run by clerks. Clerks run everything, right? And it's and the bribery that goes on. And we know this. We know this. And it's like, please do not look to there. The solution for your depression, for your anxiety, for our lost children, for us feeling empty is within our vicinity. It's on the podcast, it's in the books, it's in your community where someone has stepped up, like yourself, as a leader, right? These are where the people are that are going to help you find your grounding, find your core center, find your meaningful purpose, start feeling life again within your body. And then from there, be a solution to someone else. But it's roots, it's grassroots.
Yeah. And that's why I tell my story because, when I was the most suicidal, I was working at Warner Brothers and I had, a job that 400 people applied for.
Mm.
And I had personal issues in the department and there was some cruelty going on and I just it's because I had wanted this job. I felt like this was my dream and then my dream was really dark and
A
I
nightmare.
a nightmare. And so I really fell into a big pit and it was probably one of my most difficult times in my life. And I mean, I just did not want to be here whatsoever. I just was like, I don't belong here.
Mm-hmm.
I, the things that I always wanted, I'm never going to get. This is my story. It's never going to change. And it was really difficult. And then because I am a driven person, just something switched in me. And I said, no, I'm going to at least give it my all and I'm going to heal this and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
figure out a way. And I just started going for it. And it was like I had bad days, but then I would just,
Mm.
talk to myself and say, nope, get up right now, go take a walk. I just became my own best friend.
Yeah.
I learned what worked for me, and that's what's in the book. And for me, the first thing is I didn't know I didn't love myself.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't, because I kind of thought I was pretty cool and interesting, and I had talent. And I have a very similar personality now than I did before, even when I had a hard time. So I would walk in the room, I was light. I didn't keep my head down and then walking around in tears. Like nobody knew. It was
Right.
exactly the same person that you see now that I would portray back
Mm-hmm.
then. But inside, I had this turmoil and I would go home and be alone and be
Mm.
sad. But I would give all my love to every single other person. You need a job, I'll help you find a job. You need help with your career, you need money, I gave away all my money. I would just literally get to where I could not even barely move by helping everyone around me. And
Yes.
when everyone around me, when I needed something, would just bail on me,
Mm-hmm.
I would feel like, oh, I'm unworthy of love. And so what I didn't realize is I was trying to love all those people so they wouldn't abandon me. And then
Mm-hmm.
they would abandon me anyways. And so it would just prove to me that I was this thing that didn't deserve love. And so what I did is I took all that energy almost, and I would give little pieces to people deserved it, but I took all that energy and I just gave it back to
Good.
myself.
Good.
And worked on this temple and like how I fed the temple, what I said in my mind, how I spoke to myself, the people I would, and I was wounded, so I was attracted other wounded people.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so we were just like a misfits of wounds, drama, hurting each other and calling, triggering each other
Caught in a pattern, right?
you know, but now all of my relationships are completely different. They're just grounded in kindness and reality, and the communication is open. And even if there's a conflict, I deal with it differently. It's just I had to do the inner work. And now
Hmm.
I align with way different level of people that want to go change the world, people that want to raise money, people that want to help other people
Hmm.
in a way, but they're educated, they're driven, it's so everybody has some wounds, but I'm just, my whole existence has changed.
Yes.
That's what I didn't think was going to happen. I knew
Hmm.
I was going to fall in love with myself and as it was happening, but I did not know my life purpose would be unfolded,
Hmm.
that all that I was going to attract the most amazing friends and family and projects in my life that
Hmm.
were attracted to me because I vibrate in a different way now.
Energy begets energy, right? Like misery begets misery. When you're
Yeah,
positive energy, it gets positive energy. Yeah.
yeah. And so that was it's like one of those things you don't realize why you're going through it. And that's why I like to
Mm.
tell people about it, because when you're in it,
Yeah.
it's hard to see that that's going to be coming in. But if you do put your head down and follow the work, you will get there and things will just start to magically appear. And I also talk a lot about spirit.
Hmm.
Spirit was what, like, to me, I felt so held. I worked on my inner child wounds, which a lot of doctors talk about, like the grief repair,
Oh, yeah.
the
Yes,
inner
yes, yes.
child work, and hugging that inner child and saying, I'm sorry I
Hmm.
talked to you like that for so long.
Hmm.
I'm Because it was like I almost self-abused myself,
Yeah.
and you don't realize that you're doing that in a
Hmm.
way. Because you're kind of like, would you beat up a little puppy? No, but then why are you beating yourself up
Yeah.
like that? You know, and learning that, like, no wonder. Yeah. If you lived in here back then, anybody would feel that way,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So we can change that no matter what no matter what our protocol is. And our protocol is going to be different for everyone. So you're the only one who knows what speaks to you.
Yeah.
So you have to find it on your own, but there's going to be support. There's people like me who've been there and come out the other side. And you just have to decide where there's always going to be a mountain. Are you going to go up that mountain with a boulder on your back
All
that's going to
right.
crush you? Or are you going to take an axe?
Let go, take the weight off along the way, lighten up, and you'll be up at the top of that mountain before you know it, right? It's
Yes,
just
there's
getting
always
rid.
mountains.
Hmm.
And now
You
when
know,
obstacles come, I just kind of giggle. I'm like, come on.
yep, yep.
Okay. Yep.
You
I'm
know, and
working
it's
it.
every time you reach that top of that mountain, you look at it and go, look how far I've come. Right. And
Yep.
that's the beauty of it. You know, I've been doing this 12 years and I've interviewed some extraordinary people and some people who have gone through some things that no human being should ever have to go through, really horrific. But they made a choice not to be the victim, right? They made a choice to find ways to get through it. They discovered their courage, they discovered their strength, they discovered their abilities. And they came out the other end and said, I wouldn't change a thing because who I am now was my choice. But I came to be because of what happened to me. And I turned it around to work for me, not against me. And they're some of the biggest leaders and illuminators today. And we can all be that. But the first thing is the choice to not live in that misery or that darkness anymore. And hey, I know it. And I'm an extremely spiritual person. I went into very much what we call spiritual empathy depression, where I could feel everything and it just suffocated me. And I just got swallowed up and I didn't know how to come up for air. Right? And we find a way when you narrow your world down to just you. Nothing else outside matters at the moment. All that love and energy that you poured on everyone else, it's back on you. And not at full force. right? At one note at a time. We don't want the orchestra on you. We want one instrument at a time, igniting you, building up that beautiful next instrument and next instrument until you become that orchestra, that symphony of self-love and that love that resonates out to everyone else. But if you're not willing to participate in your own healing and stay in the past and stay in the pain, you will forever, forever be miserable.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of people just want to like pretend that it's not there and cover it up with different things like addictions and things like that.
Yes. All
Uh,
addictions stem from that.
yeah,
All
absolutely.
addictions.
Yeah. And that was what my first husband, he's in a rock band called Flogging Molly, and they were an Irish punk band, and they're huge. They're like the #4 touring band in the world. And I loved him so much, but I was surrounded by alcohol. And
Yes.
I had to make a decision. Even when we broke up, I was brokenhearted. But years later, I was so grateful because I knew I wouldn't grow spiritually
Mm,
because I knew I wouldn't have gone through this fight for my soul if I still was in that, you know, uh, in that situation because I would be drinking every day. It was the lifestyle that we had. It was
and
that's
it
the way.
numbs it, right?
Yeah,
It
and
numbs it.
so I just feel really grateful that at the time, I always, this is in my book, and I loved him so completely at the time, but he said, I'm doing this for you. And I just looked at him like, that is like the meanest thing to say on your way out. You know
Right.
what I mean? What do you mean? Thank you so much. Like,
Yes.
you know, and for about 2 years I was kind of off again, suicidal, wanting to leave. And now it's like I am so grateful.
Mhm.
So that's really hard. That's why I talk about the stories, because again, it's hard to see that, a chunk of time later, it's like, oh, you can look back on it when you've done the healing and go, oh my gosh, yeah, probably would be like, you know, 400 pounds, honestly, drinking all that Guinness. You know what I mean? Honestly, my temple would have been sick. I probably would have had some kind of cancers,
Mm,
I never get sick. I haven't been sick in probably 6 or 7 years. If I get sick, I have it a few hours and it goes
yeah.
away. I really believe because I'm so in my body. I'm so present. I ingest food that's healthy for
Hmm.
me. And it's because it's that self-love.
Yes.
And I vibrate high and I just don't get sick anymore. I don't, I believe it. My vibration can't hold the illness. Um, and it's a part of it too. You got to look at the whole being and the whole body and the whole everything as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also, it's not what you do, it's who you are doing, right? A lot of people, it's the doing. No, you were doing before, but you weren't being. And when we become the beingness, whatever we do is coming from a place of heart, soul, and spirit. And there is a totally different vibration around that. There's a totally different feeling around that. Money is not even the conversation around that because the currency is already enriched and abundant, right? Although we do need this green stuff in order to make things happen. All we're asking for is match my abundant currency with the green stuff, and I'll put it in the field and make it grow, right? So we have somewhere along the line, and it's always been some form or other. You've always had the hierarchy with their power and their gold and their diamonds and everything else. But then we got to a stage where the poorer could become richer and become middle class, right? And then you had the 1% that got there mostly through crookery. And and then the poorer still kind of either stayed poor or managed to climb up. And we put so much importance on things and money. You have no idea how many people I've interviewed saying, I worked 18 hours a day to have the mansion, to have the car, to have all the expensive things, the Rolex watch, and I had zero time to enjoy it. I lost the house, I lost the car, I lost the wife and kids. I nearly lost my life. And that was the greatest gift I had because I found myself.
The energy of money is a real thing.
Mm,
When I was depressed, I bought a house when I was really young, and I had all this equity in the house, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to check out before I get to spend that money. So I sold my house thinking I was going to commit suicide. And I gave away a lot. I gave away a lot of the money. I paid for my friends' lawyer bills, vet bills. I went and rented a really fancy house in Hollywood Hills, and I was just spending it like a drunken sailor. And it was really interesting because that's when my healing really came in. And what happened is I took the power away from money
Mm-hmm.
to own me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that was ever going to happen.
Right.
That was the other last thing. Like,
You're
so
not a dollar sign.
so yes, I needed to create business and to keep alive and all that stuff, but I don't give it the power I used to. I used to put
Mm,
it on a pedestal. I used to think it was a thing that
mm,
I just changed the energy around it. Now I realize money is energy,
mm-hmm.
and I can create that energy and that abundance, and it'll come and it'll line up the way it's supposed to. But I took the power away because there is and when I'm doing this documentary, I'm looking again into the different cultures, like say Japan. Like Japan has an intense um, relationship with the energy of money, and a lot of people commit suicide in Japan because they're in debt and it's shameful.
Yes.
We all have different, every culture has a different reason, a suicidal culture. And it's like, they're leaving because they can't pay their credit card bills. They're
Mm,
leaving their body, you know? And so that's an energy of giving money too much power,
yeah.
you know? So if you can release that energy and let it come to you naturally and understand it doesn't own you, like you having this soul in this body is just this is a gift already, like
Yeah.
100%. This is more, this soul is more than
Mm,
any type
mm,
of money could even,
mm,
this has more value. I think I have this on my website, a saying that people like, and the first part I did it when I was a kid, and this was a positive affirmation, but it was, you are the joy that
mm.
nothing else is. And I wrote that when I was a little kid. And your soul is the most valuable thing you own.
Yes.
Take care of it. Take care of
Your
it.
soul is your conscious compass,
Yeah,
and it resonates to your heart generator. That's then given to your spirit action for your mind to know what it needs to know in clarity when it needs to know it. But we've been so dictated and programmed to come from the mind. Am I popular enough? Am I sexy enough? Am I rich enough? Am I enough? Am I enough? Am I enough? That we don't go down into the heart, the soul, the spirit. But if we come from the feeling of the soul's wisdom, that's the reason why this is called self-discovery wisdom. Discover your wisdom, that compass that generates your heart into excitement and the action of the spirit and the mind, clarity of the mind. We suddenly know why, what, and when, and how.
yeah, that's why I called my company the Liberated Healer, and there's the logo is a compass because
Mm-hmm.
it's always coming back to
Mm-hmm.
the compass. And actually the name was given to me by spirit. So
Mm-hmm.
I had like a spontaneous awakening, something like I think Eckhart told, and there's an ice cream truck coming by. So sorry if you hear a little dancing, which I think is like
Yeah.
energy,
I'll take a
energy.
99.
I live by the beach and they just go up and down now, and it makes me laugh. So I'm like,
It kind of
come
takes
on,
me back to childhood, actually, kind of nice.
laughter is the laughter is the best way to break up energy.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
I actually teach ha 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 to people that are depressed. Just say ha ha ha, and we start laughing, and then it breaks the energy. But
Watch children, watch animals. If they
yeah,
can't bring a smile to your face, if you don't get a giggle out of it, if your heart doesn't warm, then you're a rock. You're not a human being, right? Because
correct.
they ignite that in you. And you mentioned something that so many people have lost, not just the meaning of it, but even the ability to have is joy. What's joy? What's joy? I don't know. What is there to be happy about? Well, switch off the news, come off social media, get out in nature, right? Go and do something like putting your feet in the water and paddling. Go and do something silly for yourself that makes you laugh and lifts your spirit. The joy is in the simple things of life, simple things that bring a smile to your face and a smile to our heart. We're so busy looking, it's got to be big to, in order to move me. It's the small things. It's the small things that move you.
And if we can avoid judgment and criticism, not just for ourselves, but for other people,
Hmm.
it's a practice I've done, and it's really changed my life because you don't realize that you're throwing judgment on someone. And what
Right.
happens is you throw it on them, and then it kind of bounces back to you. It's a vicious cycle. And what I mean by like, if you're upset about homeless people, or if you're upset about young kids doing X, Y, and Z, or you're throwing shame and judgment on the people. I've programmed myself, and to really not do that anymore. I just whether it's and that's a programming that I was like, I'm going to change that programming. That's something that happened through schooling or my business or whatever. It's like, no.
Reframing it,
And
reframing it.
so now
Hmm.
it's like when I look at it, I look at their essence, and what I do is especially if I do see someone struggling with their head down, I pray for them. And
Hmm.
that's a way better way to just instead of just throwing judgment like, oh, another homeless person. It's like pray for them,
Yeah.
put light around them.
White
And
light.
it
Hmm.
helps you and it helps them and things like that. So that's sort of a practice I do. And over time, because I do it so much now, you kind of forget that's who I am. Like people have no idea that's who I am unless I mention it. But
Yeah.
if more people do that and we just kind of do our own thing, and we can, I think the energy would shift dramatically. I mean, it's little things that all of a sudden pile on top of each other, and it would just really change it. And
Compassion, kindness, empathy, right? They lead to love. And love is one of the highest frequencies you can have. But if you don't have that kindness and that compassion and that empathy for where a person is, and you don't make them feel small, but you show them how big they are, and help them see themselves in that same light, you are sharing your love. And that love frequency, the more and more that we rise up to that love frequency, the more will we become the healers of the planet and the healers of ourselves. We are in such turmoil around the world right now. And the universe gave me a saying 6 years ago. I'm going to come and shake you up, to wake you up, for you to step up and change up and grow up vibrationally, but also grow up. It's time to grow up. We have invested so much time in moaning and bitching instead of actually being proactive and doing something about it.
amen. Oh my gosh. I mean, I wrote this book when I was going through a breakup. I had just lost all my money. My then boyfriend like stole a bunch of my money, so all my belongings. I didn't have anywhere. I was 53 years old. I'm not a young person. I had had a lot of money in the past and literally just had nothing left. I was living in my friend's trailer with two dogs that I have.
Mm. I guess there was one
And
on the bed recently.
yeah,
Yep.
and then I got the book deal,
Hmm.
and I'm I sat in the trailer writing and I didn't tell Amelia even,
Mm.
that I'm like suffering in this great way. I would just sit there and say, okay, spirit, this is what happened. And it was pouring rain, and there was coyotes circling our trailer. And I was on top of a mountain all by myself. It was just the craziest dark night of the soul. And the people there hated me, and nobody's wanted to say hi to me. And I just felt so alone and out of place, writing a book about suicide. And I was actively using the book as I was writing it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I knew that it was sort of like a divine thing to say, Gina, do you know in your heart you will never commit suicide or never want to commit suicide again? And I was at the worst time of my life, and I was like, hell no.
Hmm.
And I needed to know that before I put
Yeah.
this out. I needed
Yeah.
to know when people say, how do you know? I know.
Yeah.
Because
Because
not
you know what
one
it's
time,
about now, right?
yeah, not
You've
one
got the
time did
skills
I
and
think
the
about
tools.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the reason why we think about it is because of that despair, that irrationality, that there is no way out. I mean, Twitch a couple of years ago, you think that he has everything and he was such a joy and everything else, and then he just like that Robin Williams brought so much joy and laughter to the world. And many of the people that have brought so much to us didn't invest in themselves. And when that dark night came and consumed them, it was just too much. It swallowed them up. And as I said, I've been on that brink a few times myself, and it's like, it's a fight. It's a fight to come back. It's a fight to, I think first what I had to do is stop fighting the depression and start realizing I needed to love myself because that's what I was needing. I was needing some loving. The
Well,
child was needing some loving.
I mean, I'm a channel as well.
Hmm.
I'm what they call a cipher, which means, and this is what I found out through my process, is my job is to receive messages from
Yep.
spirit to put them out in the world. And I didn't even know what cipher was,
Hmm.
honestly. I'm like, I'm a what?
Yeah. I call that the knowingness. It's,
I'm a
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Oh, damn! I gotta look that up. But Robin Williams has actually come to me a few times, actually. And all of these spirits, all these entities they're still out there, and they really
Hmm.
they so they gave me a vision of something called the Garden of Souls, which is every single person who has passed through suicide um, has like a rose in this garden of souls. And they're supporting this book and my efforts because they want the people that have already passed this way, they
Yeah.
want it to end.
Yes.
So I just want people to hear that. There's all these energies out there that are fighting for us right now that are
Yeah.
available to us that you can even just ask them, come in, I want to talk to you. Even Robin Williams, like, hey dude, you say hello, say his name a couple times, and just see if you feel his energy and laughter and being, and he's going to shower you with love and support and ask you to stay and help you there. Like, we're actually in this big giant matrix of all this energy,
Hmm.
completely connected, and we don't realize like how. And I like to express that to people because once you see that your soul is a part of this big vibration, you
Yeah.
don't want to snuff it out. You'll
That
do
is our core of being. That is it, by denying our soul, we're denying our very beingness,
yeah.
right?
So it's and even Emmanuel Swedenborg. So Emmanuel Swedenborg Foundation published this book, and it's a nonprofit based on Emmanuel Swedenborg's work. And he was this 16th 17th century mystic. He had a 210 IQ, which is only 3 people in the world ever reached that. And he was consulted by kings and queens, and came from a wealthy family in Sweden. And all of a sudden he started hearing angels, and so
Hmm.
he started to document it. And then people are like, yo, you're crazy.
Yes.
Right?
Or the
So
demon is after,
yeah,
being possessed. Yeah.
but that's why I gravitated towards him, because in a way he was sort of a rebel.
Mm,
The religions were like, we thought you were this awesome guy, and now you're hearing angels.
mm,
So he channeled through me several times and with this book, and there's actually a message from him in this book.
hmm.
And he was just fun and witty, and supporting the whole contribution to get this out in the world. When I saw the amount of guides behind me,
Yeah.
like I'm telling you, would like look behind me of people, energies that were supporting this book that were no longer embodied, was you couldn't see, is it went on forever.
Right.
And in
And
that
and
love, I just want everybody to know, like, you all have the same exact thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just because we're in flesh doesn't mean we're not a part of the collective, right? That collective is with us all the time. It's up to us to
And
open up and receive and guide the flesh. But we're
yeah.
in this vehicle to have this wonderful human experience.
And
It's
funny.
driven by the spirit.
It's funny because so he has a lot of followers. They have the Swedenborg Foundation, then the Swedenborgism, but they always just look at his old text, and they go over his text over and over again, and they talk to him like he's dead, which he is, but he's like, I'm still here. Like,
Exactly. My
nobody is
spirit's
talking to
alive.
me.
Yeah.
Like, I did a speaking thing with them, and I told everybody, I was like, you can actually still communicate with him, reach out to him, because he was
Yes.
laughing through me. He goes, gosh, I'm really dusty because hardly anybody asks me anything anymore. They just old stuff. And I thought it was kind of funny, but he helped me so much with this book. He even helped me find a place to live. He helped me
Hmm.
find editor, he's like, I'm going to help you do this. I'm going to help you do that. And I was like, and it all came.
Yes.
And I got,
Because you actually finally opened up to your purpose and
yeah,
your path. And that's the beauty of the willingness to go through those dark days into the light. And we don't get here in our meaningful purpose without having traveled that road, because our meaningful purpose is defined by that road and how we have opened up and been ready to receive. There was a mum I interviewed a little while ago last year whose 8-year-old daughter committed suicide. But she said to her mum, I am of better service over there than I am here. I am going to show you the people that need your help. And so on the other side, she shows her mum and all the work that she's doing to prevent suicide, the people that are on that brink for her mother to reach out on. So, people go, well, she copped out. She didn't know. She realized that in having those 18 years of life, she understood what her job was. And her job was to be on the other side with that beautiful link, and gave her mum meaningful purpose and family, and actually to get out there and support those that are confused and at that crossroads. Do I live? Do I die? And the
mm,
thing is, one of the biggest problems we have in as humans, we can be humanoid or we can be human beings. And when we ignite the heart and the soul and the spirit, we become the human beings having this incredible experience. But the experiences, we're meant to feel pain and anguish and this and that to actually understand, what, these are our challenges. They're not our punishment, they're our challenges for us to rise up to learn from, to become from, to be
mm.
able to do more in understanding and empathy. If we stop looking at it as victimization and instead of looking at it's another mountain to climb, right? How do I lighten my load on each mountain so I'm not dragging anything I don't need? And what am I meant to learn on this journey?
Yeah. And then it becomes exciting because you're
Yeah.
like, okay, here goes an adventure today. Oh,
Yes.
today. And if I have a bad day or a month or a week or whatever, I allow myself to have that still.
Yes.
I
Don't deny it.
it's not like you become this perfect thing that no longer has things.
Right.
You just you we all have, life is about conflict, and we're never going to get rid of that. And we need to teach that in schools too, as well,
Yes.
for kids. Like, there's going to be conflict, there's going to be obstacles, you're going to have fights, you're going to lose friends, things are going to happen. It's like, how do you break it down and deal with it in a way that's character building, that's sensitive
hmm
to people around you, that and this should be like an education in schools. Like, they should have practice on how to,
The
there's
system, that's what I'm talking about. The system teaches the wrong thing,
yeah,
right? It doesn't teach it. Now, let's face it, when you look at a young child, and I have a 15-month-old and a 3-year-old grandson, and I look at them in their geniusness, in their wonderment, in their exploration of life, and it's absolutely beautiful to see. What do? We send them to school, conform. You must fit in this box. Do not show me something I haven't asked for. And we suppress, suppress, suppress. What happens to that suppression, that teenage years? That creativity wants to come out, but it doesn't know how to, because society still says conform. Conform to what? A dysfunctional program that is obsolete? We need to write our own program. Channel it, write it, and be it. Stop conforming. That is what's killing us.
but the worst part to me is you can change that. If something can inspire you one day at a coffee shop, it doesn't even matter. But
Right.
it's the medication. I've met a lot of families, their entire family is on the like zombie like medication. And to me, it's very hard to do the energy or spiritual work that's going to clear this stuff for you when you're on that stuff.
Yeah, because it
Because what it
suppresses.
does, and I'm not saying there's some people that doesn't help, and there's some people that need it, but we all know that the amount of people that are on it,
Yeah,
there's a big percentage of people that don't need to be on it. So of course,
absolutely.
some,
Yeah,
right? But we're just saying the mass use of it.
right.
There's got, and an entire family, every single person in that family needs
Exactly.
that medication to be happy. There's got to be something wrong. If out of that family, maybe one person needs something, but all of them, and that's what I've seen, especially
Yeah,
in Canada, people I've talked to, they just give them all out. And that's when it becomes very difficult, because
Hmm.
now you're reprogramming the physiologically synapses in your brain that connect to the mind, body, heart, and spirit, to tell you turn left, turn right, and the
Right.
intuition. So now you feel somewhat happy, but you just don't understand. You're not learning the skills. You're not
Yeah.
going through.
You're a robotic. You're rather than
Got
a
to go
living
through
being.
this stuff as much as possible, without, like, homeopathically, as much as possible. I'm not even a big fan of psilocybins and other things. Very few times, under the care of a person who is either, like I hear about ketamines, helping on with therapy, or like, shamanism stuff, like, but very few, and it should not be. I mean, I'm not even kidding you. I went to a party in Hollywood where they had piles of ketamine, piles of DMT, piles of mushrooms. Uh, like, I could not, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s. I was like, man, we just thought we were crazy because we, had like cocaine and
Exactly.
alcohol. Like, that was it. But now it's like these parties and what they have access to is unbelievable. And
It's
that,
all escapism, not dealism.
but
Yeah.
that will throw you into a growth period you don't want to be in, without
Right.
ritual,
Hmm.
out care, and knowing where everything came from. So I'm really, I always give for me, I haven't done, I'm not susceptible, I'm too sensitive for that stuff.
Yeah.
Meditation is fine for me. I literally can feel like I'm flying, with teddy bears in the sky if I want to, through meditation. And it's taking practice. It is the longer haul, but isn't it better to know, like, if you're having a panic attack, or you're going into something has triggered you and you just lost a relationship or a job or
Hmm.
something, you're like, okay, I got to turn my tools on. I got to meditate. I got to ground. I got to call back my
Hmm.
energy. I have to figure out, I have to go for a walk. I have to put on music. What are your tools? They're going to recenter yourself. Isn't
Yes.
it better to have that versus a potential medication, or wanting to use outside sources to reach the enlightened spaces? Like, I honestly can get to an enlightened space in about 30 minutes, but it took years of practice. So it is the harder way, but I have access
It's
to it at
it's
any
purer
moment.
way. And also it opens up your channel to the pure channeling of that knowingness, because you know it to be the truth. You can feel it. And it's like every time somebody pitches me something, if my core says no, I don't. My core is my compass, it's my truth. Because I'm not going to argue with my compass. If I do and I go and do it, it's going to go, huh. You went
I
with your
mean,
head instead of your compass.
I'm so in tune. Like, I'll walk into like a charity event or a foundation, and my compass will pull me to the person I need to talk to.
Exactly. Again, it's not about the masses. For me, it's about there may be one or two people, that's all. All right. And even if I do guest speaking, I prefer an intimate setting where after I've said a few things, it's conversation where we're all integrating together. I hate the grandstanding because I feel it's a sugar high, and it's not really penetrating, right? It sounds good, but where is the connection to it? And people forget you need to feel your thoughts, not think your thoughts. Thinking is a humanoid thing. We go over and over and over like a treadmill. When we feel it, we've invited the soul, heart, and spirit's wisdom to guide us on those thoughts and what we need in that clarity.
I love that line. Well, I'm an I'm already a feeler. It's like I'm always touching materials, and when I meet someone I like, I'm like, oh my God, I shouldn't touch you. I'm sorry, but I gotta touch you.
Yeah.
I'm a physical expression, and absolutely feel your thoughts. Like, I feel everything. The mind
Because
is
that's the truth, right? That's the truth. Yeah.
the mind can
And
be a very dangerous place. I had an
very.
ex-boyfriend that used to say, are there evil squirrels juggling knives in your head? And now I look back on it and I laugh, because that's sort of the energy that was happening. You know what I mean? And it's
Mhm.
get triggered, and it's like, and that ball of wax just keep going, and then you go back to the past and what happened, and this is just going to happen again, and that's exactly what it is. It's like there's squirrels going around in your head,
Right.
and I still do that once in a while. I have to pull myself out.
Yeah.
I have to pull my toolbox in, and
And pay attention to the signs. Like a little while ago, I got COVID. Straight from COVID, I went to bronchitis. And for once, I didn't get it from the grandkids. Somebody else gave it to me. And, but I was looking after the grandkids and I was working. And then all of a sudden, the plug pulled out of me. And, there's the cosmic nudge, nudge, wink, wink, which was what I was getting. And if I didn't pay attention, I would have got the cosmic 2x4. It was showing me the 2x4. And I thought, okay, okay, I'm backing off. On a book project that I'm putting out, I've put it off until September. I'm only doing 2 or 3 shows a week instead of 8 shows a week. I have just moved. I'm going to absorb where I am and just start, being present instead of rushing forward all the time. And sometimes we get these things to go, okay, have I got your attention? The universe is not out to get you. It's out to sometimes slow you down. You're going in the wrong direction. I'm going to slow you right down to a stop street, and I want you to pay attention to the surroundings. Now, which way do you feel you need to go? And if we're thinking it, we're going to go off in the wrong way. If we're feeling it, yeah, this way's pulling me. I need to go there. But we don't allow those feelings to come to us because, well, I should be. I've gotta. What will people think? And it's like, screw it. What do
Mhm.
you think about yourself? How do you feel about your journey? Are you honoring your vessel, your spirit? Because if we don't honor it, how do we expect anybody else to?
I saw a sign yesterday, this coming to share. It was just a stop sign, and I live by the beach, and it was at the grocery store. So is this like stop regular stop sign, and underneath it, like in little lights, I don't know why they did this. It's like, can you smell the ocean? Can you smell the ocean?
Yes,
So like
yes.
stop. So it's just a regular stop sign, every stop. And
Yeah.
I go to that grocery store like almost every other day, and I for a year, and I never noticed it. And then I noticed it that day, and it really did fill me up with joy
Yeah.
because it was like a tiny thing that whoever decided, and that was the government, somebody, because it's a stop sign. But let's just put a little thing in there. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's those little things that's like, oh, yes, I can smell the ocean. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Reset you,
So
kind of have you refocus. Yeah. Yeah.
beautiful though. It's like
Yeah.
where like you can see and feel those things. So it is wonderful. Yeah.
The universe is always speaking to us. We are never alone, even at the times we feel the most lonely. And, being a very spiritual person or empathic and things can be a very lonely journey because we're paving paths for other people. We're being that beacon of light to show the path for other people. We're handing out the tools and the inspiration and the mentoring. And sometimes it can be lonely. And I think, I fought that for a long time. And even in my own memoir, my brother edited the book and he said, there's so much loneliness in here. And I said, yes, because I'm 69, so I was ahead of my time in some ways, because I'm a 70s girl, right? So I was ahead of my time where people would come to me for that spiritual advice. And then like, oh no, I didn't ask her. I didn't ask her, right? Because didn't want to be seen. And now we're at a beautiful era in time where it is, we are opening up the veil for you to feel, to see, to immerse yourself into, because this is the only way we're going to save all life here on the planet and the planet itself. And it's up to us, to each and every one of us, to ignite our own heart and soul. And that is how we beat the depression and the anxiety and the everything else. We then realize what we're here for. And when we know what we're here for, that meaning for purpose gives us so much reason to get up every day and do.
Well, you look amazing. And I could tell it's from definitely the spiritual and energetic work. I mean, just to be, you're encased in such youth and energy, but it just makes sense to me because, you do, in my second book, I'm explaining how, I believe that spirituality is the new anti-ager.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely, if I showed you pictures of me like 5 years ago, you probably wouldn't even believe it was me because when I was going through the suicidal ideation, I was still, I was already doing some of the work, but I still had these like dark periods and things like that. And I just felt heavy, like it was like energetically heavy. You could see it in my face and my eyes. And I was just trying to smile, but always something behind me, just not connected, didn't want to be there. And so I really believe I was like, if you want to do like anti-aging, you like really do this energy work because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I look younger than I did back then,
Yeah. You
10,
feel
15,
more youthful,
but it
right?
really, it's sort of a teenager. I know a lot of people don't believe me. I'm like, I honestly, and then people that know me, they know that I look completely different than I used to.
Hmm.
And it wasn't any change, but my spirituality like incorporated in my body, really. I
And
still eat the
it
same. I still,
softens everything up
yeah.
instead of the anxiety, everything that we've carried with us before that became part of us. We soften up in a way that that energy glow is always around us. And we're always in a state, even in our low times, we're still always in a state of joy.
And I
Be-
think it's really interesting because I actually would go and look at pictures of like ex-boyfriends or
Mm.
friends that were, maybe kind of energy vampires.
Yeah.
And I could see my energy be different around them than I was
Hmm.
people that loved me.
Yes.
And you can look at that. I mean,
Yes. Yes.
it is a part in my spirituality program, really you can tell like this person, like how are they vibrating? Because I would have to merge with them and vibrate with them. And they were the ones that were like doing really kind of
Yeah.
dark things in the background, like really dark stuff.
Hmm.
And I would just try to downplay, go lower, downplay, hang out with them, but you could see it around me.
Yeah.
Versus when I'm around like my buddies that are my best friends, and we vibrate in the same level, it's like this shine.
Yeah.
So
You're no longer the shadow. You're now the beacon of light.
but you can see
Yeah.
who's affecting your energy in pictures,
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes.
you
And
know.
and it's again back to that feeling. It's not somebody saying all the right words. I call them the grandstanders because they've got a niche and they say all these words and they sound all right, but where's the feeling behind it? I'm not connecting. Where's the energy behind it? And then you can have a conversation with somebody on a park bench, and they say two or three things, and poof, the heart and soul is pouring out there, and you just feel whoa, lifted, and it's just absolutely divine. But if we're shut down, we're not going to be open to receive those beautiful nuggets that are always going to come our way.
Beautiful nuggets. Love it.
It's up to us, isn't it? We are in an era of people opting out because they don't know what to do. And it's so sad when we look at our children and feel that all that beautiful youthful spirit when they should be in enthusiasm and creativity. And for them there are so many tools today that can help them in that direction, and yet all they can see is nothingness and darkness and despair. And again, going back to my book on the system that is so wrong, and that is societal system, that is social media system, educational, health, and government, religion. All of it needs to look at what they're doing, because what they're doing is wrong. But we can't wait for them to catch up. They will follow us. So we need to be the ones that gather around them and say, quite honestly, looking straight into their eyes, I see you,
Mm.
because so many of them don't feel seen.
No, I just all of a sudden started feeling a lot of people coming in, and I don't know, I just energetically wanted to put like a bubble around everybody of a golden light who needs it right now. And I want to ground them to the center of the earth and let them release what is no longer serving them. And letting this beautiful energy come in around there and go to their heart, and letting this gorgeous golden light come in and heal those little wounds with all those little scars on them, and give them like a reprieve today. I'm feeling very connected to an amount of people that's coming in right now. So uh just we can just support the world a little bit. And
And don't think that you need to be on the front lines to do the work.
yeah,
Because you sending out energetic love, just like you have, energetic support, white light, love, golden light, fortifying, they have no idea where it comes from. And even if there's a crack in their channel, a crack, it will find its way in. And
yeah,
the more we do it and the more that crack opens up, the more and more they start feeling there's something different here. And that then empowers the frontliners to kind of be able to stretch that open a little more. But it isn't all about what the frontliners do. If you say, well, I don't know how to talk to somebody who feels suicidal. Again, if you are around somebody you feel that is going through that, a holding of the hand and a looking at them, I see you.
it's a big, even the therapists say that.
Yes.
In my documentary, I interviewed a therapist. He's like, tell them you see them. Don't let them, I'm okay. I don't need anything, show up,
Yeah.
be a pain in their butt. You know, ask them questions. Just pop over and say, do you want to have a movie tonight? Like, that's another thing. We just kind of like go off into ourselves and
Mhm.
we're afraid, we can't bug them or just, I'm too busy
Or we
to,
try to fix them, and they already feel broken, so they don't want to be fixed. They just
yeah.
want to be felt. And
Yeah, if it's just sitting
it's
next to a person, you
mm,
can do that, I look, I can't help but look back at when I was going through hard times and just know that when maybe someone did show up and be like, oh, thank God someone came over tonight.
yeah.
Um, they didn't know that they might have just kind of saved a terrible moment potentially.
There was a story of a woman in a supermarket, and she was buying something, and somebody started speaking to her simply about the weather. How are you doing? Da 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 da. Connecting with her, and then had a little conversation afterwards and on her way. And she said afterwards, I can't remember which platform, I was going to go home to commit suicide. And this person saw me and made me feel, okay, I can give it another try. And one of the hard things is when you're a parent, you're so busy trying to provide and support and look to your children's future that what we don't do is pay attention to their present. And it's like, what happens when they're depressed or when they're feeling isolated? They go into the computer or they go into gaming, they go into their room, they shut down and they don't want to know. And I think this is like, try some childhood favorites. I don't care if they swear at you, right? But it's like, oh, I used to love that, but I'm not going to tell my mother that, right? And it's like, it's letting them know, I know that you're going for a hard time right now. Just know you are loved, and I'm here when you're ready, right? I'm here when you're ready. Because again, so many times we see, especially that age group, they look to the future and they look at the news and they look at the state of the world. They look at the economy. They look at, I haven't got that many likes like Susie has. And so what am I? I'm nothing. I may as well leave. And we need to show them there's so much more than that. You and I grew up in an era before BC, before internet, before social media. What did we do? We went places and we actually talked to people we were sitting next to and we had conversations, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of just the likes. I mean, I definitely see we're going to have a revolution through social media. I think they have to have some accountability. I think we need to have some more suits with them and else, just what they need to have some more accountability. And then also I do see that people are going to go back to nature though out of absolute need. Probably more into like the 2029s and 2030s, so that people are going to get to the point um that where they're sick of it, that they realize that there's just, they're done with enough cat videos
Yeah.
and they're like, okay,
Or enough TikTok,
the
something.
dancing
Yeah.
things, whatever.
Hmm.
Like there is going to be a time, I believe, that I saw in the future that people are going to go, this, it'll still be around because it'll be like a marketing tool
Hmm.
and still have that like it does for many people now. But I do see over time that there's going to be a revolt of the youth coming in is going to lead it because they're going to get to the point where they need these experiences and they're tired of watching people get lonely and die. And they're coming in with a lot more consciousness and
Oh
tools.
boy. And
So
talent and
yeah.
creativity.
So
Yeah.
some of them are like it's true, going down the lazy route and like but they're going to turn a lot of them will turn that around. They're going to get into it. And I do see that there's a positive, amazing future coming with that. So
Yes. It's well, the cycle. I mean, and this is why we're seeing so much turmoil in the world. It's that, for me, what I was shown is we've been third dimensional creatures. And then the fourth dimensional bridge opened up and said, come join us. Be that fifth dimension of awareness and then be able to climb. And it was said, but at a certain time period, the bridge will be severed. And though third dimensioners, if you haven't made that choice, you will be left behind. The bridge has been severed. And this is why we're seeing so much noise and turmoil and everything right now, because they know in their heart and soul they've been left behind. And so they're fighting even more for the old paradigm
Mhm.
because they refuse to accept the new one. And but for those that have accepted it and are rising up, the consciousness is growing. We have already tilted. We just haven't CNN did or Fox News did because they'll twist and turn it anyway. It is done through podcasting, it is done through books, it is done through conversation. And so we are actually building a matrix. If you look at a forest, Judy Dench's movie documentary on trees, I highly recommend seeing, and where they have slow camera and they look at all the fiber optics from trees, dead trees, everything talking to each other. And they don't go, well, you're an oak, you've got to leave. Oh, no willows allowed here. Oh, you're a dead tree. Get out of here. You know, life comes from everything. Everything is connected and communicated. Why can we not look at ourselves as a forest and learn to actually use our sensory to communicate with each other? And this is where I believe we are going. And the more and more that we choose to rise, the more and more we choose to tune in, the more and more we choose to be, we will actually find more and more peace will come. But we have to go through the turmoil until that peace can find its balance.
You talked about trees. I'm going to talk about flowers for a minute because when I tell people this, it's something that it's so gentle, but they forget about it. And we going back to that need to survive anything that's living, that drive to survive, right? And that's where we have to go back to, we have to get back to that drive to survive. And I love to use the flower analogy because, like, say, like this flower here. So, even a flower wants to live.
Yes.
It will look around, it'll move around to where this best sun is, where it'll try to get the roots into like the best soil. It'll try to soak up some rain or that it needs or water that it needs. But the beautiful thing about the flower is that as soon as it's starting to wilt, and as soon as it knows it's going to die, like it's like hopeless, it's not going to live anymore, it pushes all the seeds out from the middle of it and throws them onto the ground
Mhm.
so life can begin again.
Yes, that's the beauty.
And
Look
it's
at
a
nature,
beautiful
right?
cycle.
Mm.
And it's like that cycle is also who we are. We
Yes.
need to understand life is our cycle. Good, bad, ugly, where you're from, wherever your station is from, that you've created. I know that there's, it seems unfair sometimes. When you see someone who's living an X kind of life or you know what I mean? But all life is valuable. And as
Yeah.
we can see it in ourselves first, we can see it in the people around us, then we can see it in the countries around us, and then in the world around us. It is going to actually be like a pun, and the love will vibrate
Yeah.
out and they can feel it across the country. But I
Yeah.
love that flower analogy because people forget and they go, oh, that's why, like, you'll see little things on the ground next to the seed.
Hmm.
It wants it to live again.
Yes.
And we want to live again.
Look at
So
a winter when you look at the grass and you look at the fields and they're all dull and dead. And then you get the rainfall in the spring. And the next thing you know, it's all flush and green, right? And it's like we are seasonal creatures. And if we actually tuned ourselves more to nature, and and followed that rhythm, that beautiful rhythm of life and nature, we would actually, instead of pushing up against the wind, we would ride with the wind and that flow of frequency, and it wouldn't be so difficult. We like to make it difficult for ourselves because society has dictated you've got to do that. When you surrender and allow and go with the flow, then you actually go, okay, this is the experience I'm meant to have.
and then flower doesn't have an Instagram.
No. No, no. And the thing is about all social media, as with anything else, internet, absolutely, even ourselves, we're all an algorithm, right? What we put out is what we receive. If you're on social media, which I am, I like to get out there and comment on people's things, and
Yeah.
I've got a show for that, and boost people up or share something. But as soon as you get somebody bashing or conspiracy theory or this or that, leave it alone. Don't touch it.
Yeah.
As much as you'd love to comment, don't feed. Don't feed that
No.
darkness. Just feed the joy. Because I'll give you an example. My mum was dying and she was having a hard time crossing over. She was 95 and an awful lot of pain. And I put out a vigil. I said, whether it's prayer, blessings, whatever it is, my mum is trying to cross over and she needs help. She needs that energy to see the angels. My sister in England, my brother had said goodbye. He was going away for a respite. My sister was there and she went to go make a cup of tea, and it was a dull day. It was raining. She came in. My mum was in a living room. They converted it to a bedroom, beautiful bay window. And suddenly, in that bay window, the sunlight came and shone on her. Her eyes were open, her hands were open, and she had passed peacefully. And that was in less than 24 hours. And 130 people contributed, not just likes and this and that, prayers, blessings, love for your mum. Energy works. Be
Oh, it
careful how you
works.
use it. Be careful how you use it. Be responsible.
Absolutely.
So that's the beauty of it. When we make this discovery, from the darkness. And I think the only reason we understand that light is when we've gone through the darkness. Otherwise, we just look at the light being bright instead of contouring the shades of darkness and light together and understanding the yin and yang of it, right? And then
Yeah, I'm writing about that in my second book. We do, there's a delicate balance,
mm,
dance universe between light and dark. So, especially when people are starting to go through stuff, they're like, oh, there's all this darkness in me and it's evil, and they really give it way too much power.
yeah.
But there is evil in the world, but there we need the dark. So when we were going through the spiritual teachings, people are like, I want to get rid of all the dark. It's like, no, you don't. Can you imagine just being all light all the time? Like that's too
It's blinding. Yeah.
we're a delicate dance of light and
Yeah.
dark. The dark is, it doesn't have, it has flavor, it
Well, you've
has.
got to be careful not to be trapped in it. And I was trapped in
Yeah,
it for about 8 years. And I knew the light was over there and I didn't want to come out. And,
yeah,
then I was getting to a point of apathy. And I thought, oh, this is dangerous. If I'm going to ever get out, I need to get out now. When I came out, it was too bright. I could hardly see. And I felt the shadows chasing me. And then I got to a point where the shadows were contouring the light and giving it definition. Now I love to go into the dark because I am the light in the dark.
yeah. And it's contrast.
Yes.
Otherwise, we would live in a planet just like full of little marching people all look the
Yeah.
same and things like that. Like, we're a creative planet. We have the most species. We're so vibrant. If you think of like the species we have, the whales, the dolphins, like we're.
And everything has a purpose, including
Yeah,
human beings. We're not the be all and the end all, folks.
yeah, yeah.
Time for us to share.
Yes.
We've been a toddler for too long saying mine, mine, mine. And now we've got to understand every single thing. Look at cats and dogs and other species that are suddenly working with other species that are meant to be their enemy, or stepping up to be the mother of a species where the parent and mother has died. And we look at that and go, wow, how did that happen? Because they don't look at it and go, you're different. They feel the energy and the need and they step up.
Yeah. Oh my God. Animals are my.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
can't even go there. That's my crux.
Yes, well, I'm actually for my 70th birthday going to get a doggy because I haven't had one for a long time. Now I've moved and everything else. I'm going to get myself a doggy, and because I want that little companion, and just the like when I'm around my grandchildren, how many times do I smile, right? And it's like with a puppy dog or a cat. I think dogs are a little bit more joyful. Cats can still be, you know,
Great protectors, though.
great protectors, but at the same time, not so snuggly wuggly. And so, I want a snuggly wuggly, and I want a dog that's going to make me smile. And remind me sometimes that when you get too entrenched in your work, that that to back off and go and have some fun. Throw
Go have
me a
some
ball,
fun.
mummy, and have some laughter, right? So,
Let's have some fun.
yeah,
This has been so much fun.
yes, definitely. Now, you have a podcast of your own. So I want you to share that, your website, how people get hold of you, and also where they buy the book.
I did put my podcast on hold a little bit, but I do have a YouTube channel, The Liberated Healer. Everything's a Liberated Healer, liberatedhealer.com. Also, I have ginacavalier.com, which is my art. I have 30 pieces of art in the book, which is all channeled healing art that heals people as they look upon it. It's surviving suicidal ideation from therapy to spirituality and a lived experience. It has a lot of my memoir tale of how I got to the point of in my childhood abuse, just so people could understand and relate that I know and this was me and this is what happened, because they kind of need to know
It's
that,
context, yeah.
you know, and then Dr. Kelley puts in, a lot of the context of what happens when we go through things like that. And we do a lot of meditations, and it's sort of a workbook. And then I have my second book coming out, Planet Walking, a handbook for the living. It's basically meant to be in your back pocket, and it's little conjectures of how to live,
Yeah.
how to be on the planet. And it's not a deep dive in any one area, but it's just basically about what chakras are, how guides work. But it's a little bit more of a 1-2. It's not a deep dive in any category.
Right.
It's really for the youth coming up who wants just a little bit of text and a lot of pictures.
Yes.
And then I am doing a documentary that we're trying to raise funding for. I'm building kind of a 360 wellness around just wellness and many different areas. And we're building an app that is going to work with brands. So brands can sponsor healing to the people that use their products. So we're building a more 360 ecosystem. It's like, who has the money, who has the desire, who needs the help. We need to help small business practitioners. We're the small business practitioners, healers, they're getting buried by subscription models, and they're just trying to help people. Like, if governments aren't going to give small business people a break, we're going to have to do it.
Right,
it's
exactly.
sort of like, we're just going to have to do everything.
Exactly. That's my premise is, I have a mentors and practitioners directory for the people that are doing that work. The reason when we do the book, we have another book coming out, which is Mastering Self-Discovery, Wisdom from Renowned Coaches, Counselors, and Mentors. And it's to bring aware. And, I feel that we look at so much and it's flash and it's in your face. And I want people to hear the story through the podcast. I want them to read the story through the book. I want them to feel the message and the connection. And you're doing the same. When people feel the message and the connection, inspiration begets invitation. They feel invited to step up and do something. And don't say, well, I can't do it like you. No, you're already doing you. You want somebody else doing them. That is a contribution, right?
Well, I'd love to add your resources to my second book as a resource in the back if possible.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, there's 3,600 shows here of people that have really stepped up, and they've all stepped up from a path like yourself, going through the dark days, making the choice to find their strength and their courage, their abilities, and then becoming that beacon of light for other people. And that's really what life is about. If we don't go through the challenges, how are we going to empathize or have compassion or understanding or help anyone else? And that's the reason. Not here. God's not punishing us. Nobody's out to get us. It's out to strengthen us and show us how awesome and flawsome we really are. And so it's up to us to accept the challenge and go, okay, I love it when people look back. I'm at a crossroads. I'm about to move forward. And then I look back. Does that mean I'm going back? No, it means you are reflecting on how far you have come. And from knowing how far you have come, you now know which direction to go in. Right?
Yes.
Take the journey. Everybody goes through some form of depression. Everybody goes through anxiety and stress. It's how we handle it. Don't reach out for the first drug. The things that kill me, absolutely kill me. I'll leave out on this note. You see it on TV. Take this for depression. Depression hurts, and the next 10 minutes is how it's going to cause suicide if you take the drug. I think it's totally immoral that they even allow an ad like that out there. Is that you are the cure, along with you immersing with the people that are there to help you along the way. So reach out to Gina, reach out to people like her, a whole association, get the book, see her own journey, get behind the next book, get behind, somebody that's rich and wants to kind of invest in something that's going to contribute, for goodness sake. We have a huge society around the world that are depressed, and they're depressed because they just have feeling there is nothing to latch onto. They don't know where to go. They don't know how to get there. Let's show them our hand. This isn't a handout, it's a hand up to show them how awesome they are. So thank you for taking that journey, for
Well, thank
pivoting it in this way of becoming that hand up. Because if we're not there for each other, then we don't deserve to be here.
yes. Thank you so much. I just, again, another virtual hug to anybody who needs it, and understanding and support, and like hooking you up to all the good light. And thank you so much. You've been such an amazing joy to speak to. I could see, Sarah, that we have so many things in common, and I wish you the most success in all of your endeavors.
I'm right back at you, and come back when you have the next book. We'll share that as well. And you know, the big word, what we did, we allowed. We allowed the universe to steer our ship instead of us dictating how it should be. We surrendered and allowed, and it showed us the path that we're meant to be on. And I don't want to be on any other path. How about you?
Oh, I love my ship now.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
the Captain S.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's because we work in tandem with the universe and all that we're here to do, right? That's the beauty
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, it's
Thank
fun.
you so much. Don't forget, get the book, reach out to her, go to her podcasts and listen to all the shows that she's done before. Surviving Suicide Ideation on Amazon, and the Liberated Healer.com, Instagram, the Liberated Healer, YouTube, the Liberated Healer, LinkedIn, Gina Cavalier, Cavlie. Reach out, because you are looking for that help. You're looking for that inspiration. Even if it's not for you, and you feel, how can I help somebody else? Listening to her story is going to give you power to how to help someone else.
Yeah,
So
I have a link on my site. I do personal healings too, and it's on my site. You can schedule it right on my website.
wonderful.
Yeah.
And we all need that. You know, the healing is within us. All you're doing is switching it on and
Yeah,
showing them how to
I
switch it
do
on.
one-on-one 90-minute healings, and you know, a lot of people after 4 healings, they don't need to go back to their doctor or what. I mean, because I do a different thing than their doctor usually does, and I show them what their soul looks like and how important it is that they're here, and something switches and they just go, "Oh,
Yeah. They
I'm just
ignite. They ignite the heart and soul and spirit. And then they suddenly
yeah."
go, oh, okay. And now I know. Yeah. We need a lot more of that. So keep that up. Definitely. We all need to ignite our heart and souls, folks. That's the reason why we're here. So don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of what somebody may say. Don't be afraid of what society may say. Go in, listen in, feel out, and just be. So until next time, everyone, I wish you a beautiful awakening. Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there, and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration, it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.